all things. Sweet. Oh, sorry. This is new.
We're good now. Sorry, we just had to get it recording.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call it to order again. It's 5:32 in the afternoon. Again, appreciate everybody being here. As far as roll call, we'll just announce the ones that are here with us. So we have Councilman Baird with us, Councilman Hancock, and Councilman Allen. And then you guys will get the others. We have Scott Duncan and Josh Fake online as well. Okay, and you signed in, right, Clyde? Thank you. We'll forego the opening ceremony. I don't know that that's necessary. Time is kind of of the essence, and this is, I know there's some that are with us that are got other things to do and places to be, so we'll make it quick. We only have one member of the public with us tonight. Did you want to comment, Clyde? Okay. Let's go ahead and get right into it then. The items that we have to address tonight are the Wasatch Water Logistics Vault Agreement and an amendment to the agreement we have with Duchesne County Water Conservancy District. And we have Grant here to explain both of those to us, and we'll give the time to him.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily matter for the way that I present them, but for approvals, I'd like to do the Duchesne County Water Conservancy District amendment first. So if it's okay with you, May, I'll start with that one for absolutely presentation as well. As I'm sure that the council is all aware, this is dealing with some of the water that's stored in Sandwash Reservoir. XEL wants to be able to purchase some of that water from us, but they want to be able to divert it from far upstream from the city along that 203 pipeline. We have sold them water already and have a short-term agreement in which they purchase water through a ditch. They would prefer to have a vault along the line and would also like to be able to buy water at times of the year that water is not available through the ditch. So Duchesne County Water Conservancy District is the owner of the pipeline. They have agreed to have a vault designed and constructed. And then XEL has already ran pipe from the pond where they want to be able to get the water back to the new diversion point. So in order for all of this to happen, we needed to have some type of an agreement in place with the Duchesne County Water Conservancy District. We do have the proposed version of the agreement available for signatures tonight. There's a couple of things that this is doing to amend the original agreement. The first is expressly allowing a new diversion point. The second is identifying where the location would be. And in part 3 of the agreement right now, it just says that there will be an Exhibit A attachment. My understanding is that Clyde has provided that to Ryan today in the form of a map.
Yes.
And I believe that XEL chose the location and the district approved the location.
Yes.
Right? So everybody's on the same page for where that will be. And on your screen, or if you're here on the screen, you can see that exhibit. And then the district is going to construct the turnout. It will be complete and functional when they're finished. And they will submit invoices to Roosevelt City for the cost. And for this agreement, I think that's all that we need to talk about unless anybody has questions. And I'll pick up where that one leaves off. And that is the agreement between XEL, which I believe it's probably a holding company. Scott can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but the contract is with Wasatch Water Logistics, which is entering into an agreement with the city so that XEL can get the water. They had some concerns that were not addressed in the agreement with the district. Those are basically the flow. They want it to be 1,300 gallons per minute. It's not specifically addressed in the agreement with Duchesne County Water Conservancy District, but my understanding is that the line that's being installed can exceed the 1,300 gallons per minute. And for those that can't hear, he doesn't have a microphone. Clark
Yes.
is acknowledging that yes, it does. The other thing that XCL wanted addressed that is not in the agreement with the district is the total cost. They wanted for the cost to stay below $250,000, or at least to have some input if it exceeds that. I think everybody believes that it's going to stay below 250 or in the neighborhood. Is that accurate, Clyde?
I'd quite go to that. I don't know that I would say that it's going to be a lot over that.
Okay.
But even today, I don't know that I would say that it's only that if with trying to do it in a time constraint, what we're getting into now, we're going to be subjected to whatever those bids come up. I mean, if y'all want a February 1st start date, that's going to be part of the bid. We're going to, whatever drives those costs of whatever publicizing and doing everything, all that, we have really no control of that. So you might would have hoped that it stayed at one, but I don't know that we've ever said that it was going to be under 250 as a conservancy district. We always said that we would never hope that we would ever hit that higher figure. We never did.
And for those are the reasons that the district has stated why they didn't want to put any kind of a cap in the agreement between the city and the district. So there's not one there. Understandably, where XCL are the ones ultimately paying the bill, they had some concern with a blank check. So what we've put into the agreement, since the city's not in a position to guarantee a cap, is just saying that we'll make a good faith effort to work with the district and keep costs low. And so to the degree that we have any control or any influence with the district, we'll exercise it. And then also the completion date is of concern to XCL because they're ready to draw water on February 1st. Again, the city's not in a position where we can make any promises. Any promise we made would be hollow because we don't have any control. So the exact same language is used. The district is aware of the deadline that XCL has. We just said to the degree we have any influence that we'll exercise it on XCL's behalf to try to make sure that the February 1st deadline is met.
You can kind of almost do it with like my board. You know, the Conservancy District Board will meet next Monday. And so if this agreement's there, well, then we'll put this in front of them. But that'll be the first time that my board ever is even ever going to say, let's put this project to bid. So once we have that, that's, you can see the time frame is just going to be the lag of whatever it is. And until we start that time frame, that's why you really wouldn't dare say you can definitely do it. Can the person do it in the amount of time? Probably. But if you're making them work in weather or cold, those are the kind of things that I don't know that I can say that you can guarantee work through. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, I think that everybody, the city, XCL, and the district understand the reason that the agreements are landing where they are. And I'm just laying that out to explain that what XCL's concerns were, and I think that Clyde's given an explanation on what the district's concerns were. In this process, Roosevelt is really kind of acting as a flow-through entity. The things that we had requested as far as modifications that ultimately were not agreed to in the agreement with the district, we were making those requests on XCL's behalf and have relayed to XCL the reasons why the district wasn't able to agree with those things, and then have in the end on the things that we couldn't reach an agreement on, which again are the flow, the cost, and the completion date. We just said we'll do whatever we can to make it happen, but it expressly states in there, and XCL recognizes specifically and expressly that we have limited control over those three things.
I have a couple of questions and that will illustrate some of the concerns that I have, I guess, because we are the flow through. If the district is, if we have kind of the way it's written now between the two contracts is Roosevelt City becomes the open checkbook. Because if the project starts and for whatever reason it hits the $250,000 mark and XCL doesn't want to proceed because it's too expensive, then anything above and beyond to finish that project would be Roosevelt. Is that what I'm understanding? How would that work?
No, the way that it's written right now, XCL has agreed that they're gonna cover whatever the cost is. Roosevelt has said that if we hit that $250,000 mark, that within 24 hours of when we learn that it's going to exceed $250,000, that will inform XCL. And then that we'll exercise whatever degree of influence we have, and they've acknowledged that it's limited, but what we're promising is that we would contact the district and see if there's anything that can be done to keep the cost down. The XCL has agreed that they're going to pay it. Roosevelt won't be stuck with whatever exceeds the 250,000.
Okay,
Hey, Mayor,
that satisfies that. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
well, Scott has a question, so I believe he's wanting to chime in here. Can you hear us, Scott?
Let's do this first. We'll just hold off on his question. Let me ask this one last question. And that is, and then this will be to Scott, are they wanting to use this water during the winter? And if so, I talked to Kurt Beecher, who is actually the engineer with Central Utah that oversaw the project. And he was saying to be able to use this during the winter, that you're gonna have to upgrade the line above and beyond just putting in the vault. And so that's not addressed in either contract that I see, which is a little bit concerning to me because we don't even know, I mean, would that be part of the engineering when we go and to engineer the vault? Do we go and look at the rest of the pipeline and see what other upgrades that we need to do at the same time? That would make more sense. It's only a concern. It's not something that we can't work through. It's just I'm pointing that out so that we know that 250,000 is only for the vault. And according to Kurt, and this is just a ballpark figure, he was saying it could be about that much to upgrade that line with, you know, everything that it needs to be able to run through the winter time. So anyway, I'm just throwing that there for that. Scott, go ahead if you got a question or
You should be able to use.
any comment to that.
Scott, are you able to unmute yourself? Oh, there we go.
I wasn't, but so first off, this was discussed early on, and that was the whole point of us tying into this line is we wanted access to the water in the winter months. So that was a discussion I had with Ryan and Clyde both. What did they give you any indication of what would need to be done to the line to be able to operate that line in the winter months?
One thing that Kirk said, there's several vents along that line that are not winter proof or whatever that would need to be replaced and reinstalled. Some of the, like up by the dam, those buildings and whatever vault turnouts or anything like that would need to be heated. And so getting electricity and things like that to them, to be able to heat those facilities and those areas through the winter time. That was basically it, just making sure that there was heat in the areas that we needed it, replacing all the vents throughout the line from the dam to the point of diversion with the appropriate vents and things like that. And so he had anticipated or guessed that it could be around that mark too, a couple 100,000, he said, a couple 100,000, 250,000 to be able to do that. And so I don't know, and I brought that up a little while ago, and I'm not sure if the engineer, if that was part of any of the engineering that has been gone into this yet, or if that's even been something that's like that, I don't know, I just want to bring that up, because this addresses the vault, but it doesn't address the rest of the line.
That's kind of the reason my conservancy, the Water Conservancy District Board last month said, you guys, we've got to have something back telling us that we're gonna move forward with this so that we, as a board, feel comfortable with just saying, okay, go ahead and go to total design. But we were never told to go to total design. We were told to go to design, but be careful and kind of a little bit conservative and try and taking up numbers, because some weren't sure what that cost could be, how high of a cost you could get. Because if you go to total design before you even have a approval, those are kind of hard.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, Clyde. So what Clyde said is they're having a hard time going and spending the money for the engineer to design the vault and design all the upgrades on the line before we have an agreement. One thing that, I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but one thing that Central Utah does that works really well is they'll get an agreement to pay for engineering. And then once the engineers are done and we have an actual cost of the project, then we move to phase 2 of the project. So phase 1 is the engineering, phase 2 is the construction or the bidding and construction part. I think I would personally feel more comfortable with that on Roosevelt City's end too, if we just said, approve engineering fees up to a certain amount. And then that'll give us a pretty close to an exact idea, because we can have the plans and then we can actually go out to bid and get some hard numbers and then hit phase 2 and have the contracts for phase 2. I don't know why I didn't think about that before, but what would you think about that, Scott, as far as committing to pay for the engineering fees, which could be done? How long do you think that would take, Clyde?
The thing that we've done to help try to speed it up a little bit is that I've probably got Ted almost doing the vast majority of the engineering, even though my last board meeting, they kind of said I should wait till your agreement. But if I waited to that, we wouldn't be getting anywhere after today, because they would be trying to design it. In order to even give you something that said, oh, we can put the vault at this location, we barely even got the easement stuff that we needed to do what you're asking. So to put costs to it, those would have been the harder part. I'm not sure we could have ever given you really a hard cost on what something would be, because we've never had Ted say, okay, let's spend the money to break it down here, let's spend the money to break it down here. We've just, does that make sense? We've kind of led it into we've been led in the direction to go of what's taking place.
Well, and how long do you think it'd take to get the engineering complete? If we were giving the go ahead to do it, how long do you think that would take?
I don't think it would be a week and a half even.
About a week and a half?
If he has everything he needs, not holding nothing back. I don't think.
So the only thing I would add to that is he has everything he needs as far as the design of the vault is concerned. But if there's any additional engineering that needs to be put in the line, like I said, that the aspect of putting water in the line during the winter months has never been addressed as a concern to me. So we wanted to proceed forward with it, thinking that the only engineering that would need to be done would be on the vault. So I would agree with that, saying that he has the engineering done on the vault side of things, but it sounds like there's going to need to be some more engineering done to be able to get this line winterized.
There will be, and I don't know how, or I don't know why that wasn't communicated back to you, Scott, but that was a concern that I brought up a month ago.
See, that was
I think.
the primary point of
6
getting
weeks.
this vault in place and finding, going this route was so we could have access to this water in the winter months. So, I
Sure.
mean, that was our primary issue of moving this direction. So it's kind of frustrating that it's being brought up in the 11th hour of us trying to get this put in place.
Well, I apologize, it
Especially
is,
where
but it was
we're-
brought up by me in the 11th hour. It was brought up about 6 weeks, at least 6 weeks ago, I brought it up and mentioned. So I don't know why it's just getting back to you at this point. It's something that we've discussed, not at length, but a little bit.
I mean, so
Do you not
I've been
remember
meeting
next
with,
year?
We've talked
been
about
meeting
it, but the main focus has been this vault, and we haven't been able to get along to even get the vault agreement.
Right.
So to go beyond that, it's.
Well, I made a phone call to Central Utah and I can,
Right.
And based off from your phone call to Central, I've talked to Kurt Beecher, but I have not had any, like Ryan said, I have not had anything back from Roosevelt telling me anything on that.
And
But
even as far as they
I've
wanted
heard-
to use it in the winter time.
Yeah, we haven't been really talking that. out.
We've always known it though from the
We've always
beginning.
known from the beginning.
Well. I was
And to
aware.
step back a little bit further, I've been meeting with Clyde and Ted for probably a month and a half now. And some of this engineering could have been done had this been brought to our attention.
The reason, no, it couldn't, because Scott, the reason that the Conservancy District, we kept telling you that we needed certain things by a certain time. And the longer it took to get this agreement, I told you, our Duchesne County Water Conservancy District, the board in their last board meeting told me that I was not to proceed any further until I had a signed agreement from Roosevelt City. And I think I've told you that every single week. Myself and Ted has told you, we've got to have a Roosevelt agreement signed. I don't think in any of our 3 or 4 weeks, can you say that we could not discuss that? You remember we did.
Well, let's just,
But in order for us to go forward, Scott, we needed that agreement. That is crucial.
No, I understand that, Clyde. I completely understand that. I'm just saying, had we known that this line needed winterization, that could have been something we would have been working on in our meetings, is what I'm getting at.
well, and at the same time, I think one of the biggest things is the thing that I think is the most difficult is we really don't have any idea how much the total project cost is gonna be, and everybody's concerned about that, which is valid. I think the best thing that we can do is, I mean, we can approve this contract, which is fine, and move forward not blindly, but as long as knowing as well that we're gonna have to engineer the line up above, and that it's going to have to be modified to handle the winterization, which neither contract really addresses.
But that just comes up, that's just gonna come out in our operation agreement of 2011. Whatever you need to take to operate the line, we'll do the maintenance on it. That's,
With discussions with Dex on that too, we did have that, a month or so ago. And it was brought up that the line was already engineered for the future of winter because the depth, the blow offs, the drains and everything like that. So the main concern was only just the vault house, the pump houses and stuff, and just putting heaters in them. So it wasn't a real concern at that time because they thought, well, we can handle that. So I don't know
Well,
if we wanted to get any more depth. I don't know if we needed it or.
and that may be true, however, Dex is not an engineer, and I like Dex. Kurt, yeah, so it sounds like it was brought up, but Dex is not an engineer. Kurt, the one that engineered the line and watched the project happen, had mentioned that there's going to be more than just a couple little things, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it could. I mean, it's not gonna be just a couple $10,000, you know, it's.
Clyde, I don't know if you heard, Joe, but Clyde said that they have power already in. Well, I assume that's the one by the dam.
yeah, there's a good chance they probably have the power and it's gonna need to be insulated. But those have always been said that those costs are gonna come along.
Yeah,
I think, you know, those ones, I think XCL knew those ones last winter, even before we took the line over. Dex had kind of relayed that those costs were going to be there.
was that relayed to you, Scott, and do you have an idea of what those costs would be?
I don't have an idea of what those costs would be, but just to step back a little bit further, if you guys recall, when I came before the city council earlier this year, you know, XCL committed to a larger amount of money. We don't want to give someone an open checkbook, but this $250,000 that's listed in this agreement is just for us to just have a little bit of control on the cost that's being spent, and not control in the aspect of, you know, we'll pay for what needs to be done, but we don't want the costs to run away with us. We want everybody, all parties to work together. I feel like the meetings we've had with the Conservancy District have been good. They've been upfront on some of the valve costs and different things like that. We just want to make sure that our money is being well spent, and, you know, it's not getting spent on things that aren't specific for the needs of this vault and what it takes to get water in the line during the winter months. But I was aware of that there was going to be some additional costs outside the vault, but was never given a total number.
Okay.
And same with the February 1st date. That was just put in there just in effort to get all parties to work together and have a common goal of getting this project done. We understand we may get done sooner, we may get done a little bit later, but we want to have a goal there that all parties can work towards. And we wanted Roosevelt City's support on it, and obviously want the district's support on it as well.
Well, given all the information that we've had, I feel comfortable moving forward if we could make sure, let's look at that where it says invoicing and payment and the XEL contract. Grant, you would know better than anyone. Does it specify just the vault? Because if it could specify or even read the vault and any other upgrades to run water through the winter, then I would feel comfortable.
Right now, it is specific to just the vault and turnout. It's not addressing any improvements to the line. I didn't know there was gonna need to be anything, so we didn't address the line.
So I guess I would feel okay with moving forward with what we have if it addressed the upgrades to the line. No, and Scott and XCL are aware that there will need to be upgrades to that line. And again, it's really difficult because we don't know. Like I said, Kurt he was probably shooting really high and being very conservative at a couple $100,000 on the upgrades to the line. And he didn't want that number to be used arbitrarily or either. He was just giving me an idea of what to expect. And so I would feel comfortable if we added those provisions in there, addressing that so that it acknowledges that there will need to be the upgrades to the line. And so if we get bills for that, then XCL acknowledges that those will need to be paid along with this project.
Okay, what I would suggest is probably not in the invoicing and payment section, but in the construction and turnout, or construction and turnout and vault section, that we expand that a little bit. And it sounds like, Scott, that we also ought to make it clear by putting it in the agreement that you want the vault to be functional during the winter months. And then we could also put in that same section, any necessary improvements to the line from the reservoir to the turnout to allow for winter flow.
I would agree with that.
I think we're pretty close. Does any of the council that have joined us remotely, do they have any questions, concerns, suggestions?
No, just appreciate your work on it. I'm glad we're working together and fleshing these issues out and memorializing them.
Okay.
Scott, as I'm thinking this through, just playing with the language, I probably wouldn't be specific to just the line improvements where there's gonna need to be heat in the vault up by the dam. Probably rather than line improvements, would just say system improvements. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's been my understanding from Dex, maybe I've got the wrong understanding from Dex with Moon Lake Water User, but it was my understanding that the Water Conservancy District was not going to be anywhere associated with any of the costs of the headworks. We don't own those headworks. And so I think we've kind of just talked lightly before. I think when you talked to Scott, I'm hoping when you talked to Dex earlier, even if it was last winter or whatever it was, I'm hoping that Dex said he communicated to you, you'll work directly with Moon Lake Water Users on the cost of heating and taking care of their inside building. That's a facility that we don't even own.
Like I said earlier, when I spoke with him, he had very little concern about it. So you telling me that, it's got me more concerned now. Cause he just felt like it was just a couple buildings, insulation, couple heaters, and it was a done deal.
I don't think it's major. I don't
Really?
I don't know that it's huge. I don't know that I'd say it's huge, because I don't have any idea. It might be spraying the whole thing with foam or something, you know what I mean? I have no idea.
Do we have a water agreement? This is a bulk agreement with XCL. Do we have an agreement to sell water to XCL once this is done? Have we approved
Yeah,
that?
it's in the works. In fact, it's almost,
But it's not approved.
no.
It's not.
So what I would recommend is if we do have any additional costs to us for winterization, for heating the buildings and everything else, and if we're going to be billed from Moon Lake, then we go ahead and just pass those costs on to XCL through that water agreement. If it's
I believe that is in that other agreement under system upgrades. And it definitely could be addressed in that other agreement.
excellent.
Yeah.
Most likely you will work with, unless they've changed something, Moon Lake Water Users, XCL probably will work with them. If you want any of us to get involved in it, that's probably okay. But I'm pretty sure Dex told me that it would be Moon Lake Water Users would work with whoever's going to pay for that to be done. And that kind of kicks out a lot of middleman of having to pay for upgraded costs with engineers and contractors and everything else too. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's not a concern. The only thing I would note is that we really don't even currently know how our fees are assessed for Duchesne County. How are those fees going to be assessed through Moon Lake, and what are they going to be? And you know, as we're going through and doing this, I feel like it's important to have those fees in place, or at least have a good idea of what we're getting ourselves into before we have a facility that then retrospectively we have to pay for and didn't anticipate some of these costs.
Yeah, I'll get with Moon Lake and Dex and figure that out. Fine tune.
So Ryan, as far as tonight and these two contracts that we have in front of us, modifying the verbiage in the construction of turnout involved, do you see any other concerns that have been brought up? Maybe because I can see on your face, there's a couple of small surprises.
Well, yeah, you know, I think we can get over it. I think we got enough here to probably pass, but like I said, Grant's looked them over and we're comfortable with it. We just need to figure out the small details on the other side. So there's three groups here. Obviously, there's a fourth one we've got to get involved. So,
Moon Lake.
yeah, Moon Lake.
So, Grant, well, I guess we're to the point. I think unless there's any other comments or concerns to have a motion, and I would suggest that the motion include changing the verbiage in the construction of turnout involved.
Yeah, and I'll put the language together, but what it's going to say is something to the effect that it includes system improvements necessary for a fully functional valve during winter months.
Okay. So let's do the Duchesne County Water Conservancy District first, and that one I think is pretty cut and dry. Is there anyone that would motion on that?
I'll motion that we approve the affidavit to water purchase agreement with Duchesne County Water Conservancy District.
Okay. We have a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Dustin White. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's do roll call. Dustin, I think that was you, right?
Yes.
Cody Allen?
He can't talk right now. He's unmuted or muted.
Okay, Bo Hancock?
Yeah, I agree.
Cody Allen, give me a thumbs up if you can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
okay. So the vote is unanimous. That one passes. Let's move to the XCL agreement. And,
I want to just tell everyone I have to abstain from voting on this one just because it's a conflict with my other job. So
okay,
I'm glad we have 3 other councilmen.
and we do, we appreciate him being on. Is there a councilman that would motion on this agreement?
Yeah, I'd make that motion to proceed with executing the agreement with the changes that Grant and the rest of us have discussed to memorialize the use of the line during the winter.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Hancock. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Dustin White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Cody Allen
Yes.
and Bo Hancock?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes and we have 1 abstain from Councilman Baird. All right, motion passes. Let's, we'll get those changes made. Is there anything else that we need to discuss? Anything else you need from us, Scott?
I don't think so. I appreciate your help on it.
Okay, all right, we'll get working on it and we'll get with the Conservancy District beginning of next week and get these before their board and hopefully be well on our way after that, so. All right, well, I don't see any reason to continue. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Wait, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
You off, are you off?
Well, are we off?